Okay, welcome everyone. Good to see you here. Welcome to this webinar on the Climate Europe 2 platform and the visual analytics dashboard. My name is Tjerk Krijger from MARIS. I'm a project engineer working at MARIS, and we are also the developers behind the Climate Europe 2 platform. I'm joined today by Kelsey Bailey from the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. Kelsey will be moderating the Mentimeter sections where we will be able to get some feedback from your side on the platform, but also on the visual analytics dashboard. And we're joined by Arno Scharl from webLyzard, who will be presenting, demonstrating the visual analytics dashboard. So in the schedule today, we have 1.5 hours. We will distribute it equally, more or less, around the platform, where I will give a short presentation followed by a demonstration of the live platform. And then Kelsey will collect some feedback from you. And then we will follow that up by the visual analytics dashboard. So some comments and house rules for today. We will be sharing the slides after the meeting, and we will also be recording the session. You're able to already give your questions or comments in the Q&A box, and then we will be able to answer them offline, or we can answer them after the presentations we have. But also you will be able to share your feedback during the Mentimeter section. Yeah, so the session will be recorded. So note that if you want to answer or discuss with us and your camera will be on, note that that will be recorded, just so you know. Okay, I think that were the most important points. So let's get the webinar started. So before I jump into the presentation on the platform, I just wanted to very quickly give an overview of the Climate Europe 2 project, just very shortly. So the project aims to support and standardize climate services in Europe and beyond. And important to mention here is it tries to bring together the European climate services community. So at the core of the project, we have 3 components. We want to standardize procedures for climate services. We want to support an equitable European climate service community and increase the uptake of quality assured climate services. We have a website, climateeurope2.eu, if you want to find more information on the project as a whole. But seeing as we have these 3 main, let's say, objectives of the project, there's a lot of information that's being generated by the project. And since we want to showcase this information in one location, very easily digestible for everybody, we came up with this idea of the platform. So that's what I will be diving into now. So yeah, I will be sharing the slides with you after the meeting. So then you also have this link available to you. And before I dive into the specifics of the platform, so the separate sections and the technicalities, I wanted to give you a bit of the philosophy behind the platform. Why are we building this platform? What is the reasoning behind it? So initially, the idea was of the platform to have it be a building brick for the Climate Europe 2 community. So being one central location where we can share the information on climate service related topics in the form of, it can be recommendation, good practices, guidelines, standards, etc. And in the project itself, we extracted them from the deliverables and other research related documents that we might have. So the idea is that we have a lot of information that's being generated by the project. Some of it ends up in deliverables, which can be 80, 90, 100 pages long. But in each deliverable, there might be a lot of information that actually deserves its separate entry. That means that, for example, a chapter that might be focused on best practices related in the climate service on a certain topic, an analysis of those best practices, the gaps, etc. That chapter is on its own a very valuable, let's say, report that needs to be shared with the climate service community as a whole. And then we add an introduction, a conclusion, and an abstract to that, and then we can put it on the platform. And that means that we have all this information in more digestible sections, so elements that users can find more information about. And then Probably also people would be more interested to read short reports, short guidelines, short standards, rather than going through full deliverables to find what they are looking for. So the scope of the platform is the whole field of the climate services, so it's not focused on one specific element of it. And one of the other reasons why we thought of this platform is we want to build a community. So we want to bring the community together, have discussions around documents that are being uploaded on the platform, being able to communicate and connect to other users in the user database of the platform that you might not be able to do so without that. Looking at the longevity of the project, of course, at some point it ends in 2027. Then the platform can function as a sustainable component of the results, not only generated in the project, but also from external users. And finally, it's a more lower threshold sharing of information to the wider community, in contrast to, for example, peer-reviewed publications and articles that go through a much longer process before being published. Of course, on the platform, we will also have quality control, but just the boundary towards publication is lower. So having said all that, the platform, 4 main sections we have. So we have the Explore, which is the main section of the platform. This is where we have all our documents. This is where we have training modules, glossary terms, and the key messages from the Climate Europe 2 project. This is open to everybody, so you don't need an account. You can just go to the platform and find the documents. Then we have the co-create. This is only available to registered users at this point from the Climate Europe 2 project. But later it will also be possible to apply for access to this section, because here you will be able to actually upload and ultimately publish your documents to the Explore or to the library. And then we have the connect page. So here we will give information or find information on other users from the community, and you will be able to connect with them. And then the analytics page, which will dive into the visual analytics dashboard. So we have a light version and a pro version that Arno will tell much more about in detail. But just shortly over the separate sections in a bit more detail. So in the Explore page, as I said before, we have the documents, good practices, guidelines, standards, etc. So these are really aimed to be short documents, 2, 3, 4 pages maximum, really focusing on a specific topic, highlighting a specific item related to climate services. So as I said, from a full deliverable, we might be able to extract 10 of such documents that are focusing on different elements. We have key messages, which has a separate entry on the Explore page. These come from the annual synthesis reports we have in the Climate Europe T project. So we have now, I think, 2024 and 2025 have the annual reports. Then the glossary. So we have a lot of workshops and discussions in the project on defining key terms in the climate service domain. And the results of these terms are being published in this climate service or the Climate Europe 2 glossary. And finally, we also have training modules that are being generated in the project. Currently, we have 3 of them on the platform, but this will be increased to around 13 at the start of next year. These training modules can also be linked to documents in the platform. So, for example, a module that is focused on market stimulation might be connected to a document, and then that will be linked together. So that when you find the document that's on a certain topic, you immediately also have a link to the training model. Then the co-create. So as I said before, this is not for everyone to see. This is closed off if you don't have sufficient rights. But this is where we basically upload the documents. So the upload form, it follows a standardized metadata template. So you will have to fill in, and I can show that in a demonstrator later, certain elements. And then you upload your document, and then you can select those users that you want for reviewing your document. And then once they give feedback on your document, you can re-upload your document until you are happy, and then you can publish it to the library. And important to mention here, it's really aimed for the let's say, final stages of a document. That means that it's not meant to be, let's say, a second Google Docs. It's not an interactive area where you can work together on your document until you're happy with it. It's more meant to be, okay, I already have a document. It's, let's say, 80-90% finished. I just need to apply some finishing touches, upload it here, get some final feedback from community members. And then once everybody's happy with the report, it can be published to the Explore page. And then we have the connect or the network page. So here we will find other users from the Climate Europe 2 community, information on just their name, research line, where they're from, and then you're able to also interact with them. And finally, the analytics page. So this is what Arno will talk much more into detail about, but it basically allows for exploring, visualizing climate service related content from a from a multitude of sources, so news outlets, non-profit organization, governmental organization, etc. So we have one of them embedded in the platform and the pro version, which is also available outside of it. Finally, the user rights. So we do have some sections that are not open to everyone. Public user, non-registered, open to everybody. That's the most important section, which is the library, where you have all the documents, the Explore page, and then also the light version of the analytics dashboard is open to all. Then we have the, let's say, Climate Europe 2 community basic member, which is just you need to register on the platform so you can make an account, and then you will basically have access to every section of the platform except for the co-create, where you will need to be approved by us. So that was a short presentation on the platform. Let me now just go to the platform. So this is the homepage of the platform. You see in this case I am already logged in. And we see here on the platform at the start, again, we have those four sections that I mentioned before. Co-create to upload documents, the library with all the documents presented, and the network page and the analytics page. We find here information from what were the latest publications on the platform. Let us just go to, for example, the library. So on the library, at this point, we now have 12 documents from the Climate Europe 2 project, but we want to increase that in the coming months. So yeah, we can filter on them, but of course now with a limited amount of documents, that's not too relevant. But as you see, for example, we have a document being published by Antonia. You see here also the link to the training module that is related to this specific document. So how does a document page look like? We have a title, we have an abstract that you can give in once you upload the document. We have information who is the author, so we can also link to their profiles. The main author can select co-authors that are contributing to the document. We find information on, let's say, when it was uploaded, the training models that it relates to, and we can also preview the document already in a PDF viewer or see the full document in the browser. But yeah, what we also want to highlight here is that we have this opportunity to comment on these documents. So this is why we would like to see them interaction among community members on different topics that users are interested in. On the library, apart from other documents, we also have, as I said before, for example, the annual synthesis report, so the key messages from the Climate Europe 2 project, for example, from 2024. We can read about that here, so it's neatly included on the webpage here. We have training modules, so as I said before, we now have 3 of them, but that will be improved and included more at the start of next year. So it's just videos presenting different topics. And finally, we have the glossary terms coming out from either workshops and discussions from the Climate Europe 2 project or adapted from certain sources that were researched. So we see here again a list of glossary terms. We can also read in more detail about the glossary terms here. But this is all to be expanded still, but the functionality is there. So yeah, this is really the main page of the platform. This is where we would like to have all the documents. And this is also where we would like to have the external community contribute with their documents. So once you register on the platform, on the top right, you will see that if you go to the co-create page, you are not logged in. I can even show that. It will say, okay, you need to log in, and if you logged in, then you don't have sufficient rights. You have to apply for being a community member, and then we can approve your request, and then you are also able to contribute to this library, and that's what we would like to see. The connect page. So this is where we find all the other users that are applied on the platform and also allowed their profile to show up in the database. So here we have information on a set of members from the community, and we are able to also message them. Important to note is that in order to show up in this database, you need to go to your profile, make sure that your information is all filled out, and then say that your profile needs to show up in the network section, and you need to have this information at least included. So that's just important to recognize there. And then we have the analytics page, which allows you to explore and visualize the climate services related content. It's embedded with the light version in the dashboard or in the platform with multiple views, but I'm not spoiling that. Arno will go more into detail on that. And then finally, we have the co-create page where you're able to upload your documents. So for example, when I upload a document, I need to give them some information. So I just do a test now. I might give some co-authors from MARIS in this case that work together with me on a document. So I give some information, the abstract, what a unit of analysis it relates to. Is it based on a knowledge system, decision context? What kind of document are we talking about? Is it a guideline, a standard? What objective from the project does it relate to? What domain does it focus on? Is it regional, European, national? And then is there a training module that's published on the platform that it relates to? And then we upload our document. We can also give some collaborators, say for who the document is open. And then we say, okay, we post it for collaboration. So your document is now open to collaborators. Of course, it now looks like this because I just gave some really minimal information, but we see the document that I included here. And the idea is then that in this co-create page, the users that I highlighted, so the collaborators, are able to review my document, able to give information or feedback on the document, and then based on that feedback, I can re-upload the document. It will turn into version 2, and that can be repeated as much as I want. I can revise the document as much as I want. And once I'm happy then with the final document, I'm able to then publish it here to the final library. So that's a bit of a workflow of how you will end up with a document on the Explore page. So we see here there are many documents that are still under review, and the ones that are grayed out are already published to the platform. So I think I covered now the main elements of the platform. Um, so yeah, the focus on the project in the next months will be on really getting more documents on the platform. There's already so much information that has been generated in the project, and now the focus should be really on making that available in small pieces of information for the external community. So that will be the focus. I don't know if there were already some questions in the chat that you see, maybe Kelsey, Arno. Did you already see some questions in the chat? If not, then I think now I can give the floor to Kelsey.
Okay, hello. One second. Okay. Hi everyone. So I'm going to switch over now to our Mentimeter session. Let me share my screen. One moment. Okay, can everyone see this all right?
Yes,
Yes?
all good.
Okay, great. So if you haven't used Mentimeter before, what you're going to do is either scan your QR code or go to menti.com and type in this code. So I think we have a
Kelsey, one
hand up.
sec. Yeah,
Yes.
Judith. I'll just allow her to speak.
Mhm.
Judith, yeah, you can
Yes,
speak now.
the chat is disabled, so
Ah,
that's, I guess, why you don't have any questions.
Now there's a Q&A box at the bottom. You should be able
Ah,
to answer your or pose your questions in the Q&A box. So I
all
see
right.
now there are two questions who popped up. Um, so maybe Kelsey, can I just answer those questions before I
yes,
give the floor
yes.
to you, and that
Let
gives some
me,
time to people to
yeah,
join the
of
Menti?
course. Go
Yeah.
for it.
All right. So first question from Camille. Thank you for two questions. Are the authors notified once someone comment on our document? Right. So that's the first question. The second question I can both answer. So indeed, when there is a comment that being posted on your document. So that means either you're the main author, you're a co-author, then you will be notified via email that you would have received a comment. And the platform, once the Climate Europe 2 project finishes, so there is still talks ongoing how we would, let's say, integrate maybe the platform into the Climate Adapt platform, or we would find another way, but it's already guaranteed by us, the developers behind the platform, that it will be up and running for 5 years after the project. So that guarantee is there, but we were still discussing with the Climate Europe 2 coordination how we will go about the platform. Will we still host it by MARIS, or will we find another climate community to have it hosted by? Um, So some more questions. Is the platform targeted for researchers? No, it's not only focused on researchers. So the stakeholders are more broad than that. It depends really on what kind of topics we would find on the platform, right? So in my presentation, I shortly noted the main objectives that we have in Climate Europe 2. We have a few different topics that we're focusing on. And some of them are, for example, focused on market stimulation, which might be actually really interested for the industry to read more about. So it's really not just focused on researchers. Judith, I saw the user authorization. Yeah, so I think Kelsey, I'll just give the floor to you, and then I'll just write the answers in the chat offline.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great. Okay, one second. Let me go back. Okay, so can you see this again? Yes? All right. So I'm Kelsey, by the way. I'm from the BSc. I'm a product designer who has done some redesigns of the platform, and I've collected a lot of user feedback to help inform those designs. And we're looking for more comments from the community. So yes, can everyone use either the QR code or the website to join? I think so far we have 21 people on here, and I think there are about 50 something people attending. So if you haven't joined, please do that now. I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, in the meantime, oops, sorry, one second. In the meantime, I'll give a few details. So it'll work best on your mobile phone. Just the way the pictures are laid out, you'll have some images that you can reference. Um, you can also leave comments below. There's a send comment option or Q&A option. Either would be fine, to be honest. This is just a way for you to like leave comments in between the slides because we'll be doing a few rating sessions. So if you want to leave a more customized note, you can do that. the responses are going to be anonymous, so you don't have to worry about being like super polite or not polite, but super nice about things. You can be very honest if you'd like. Um, and when you go on each slide, there's generally an image. If you click on that image, you should be able to expand it and scroll a bit so you can look at it a little bit more thoroughly. And also, please don't overthink it. If you have a gut instinct, a first impression, we'd like to know that. Okay. Um, just a little icebreaker. It would be great if everyone can let me know where they are in the world today. So it doesn't have to be where you're from. It could just be where you're located today. So let's see. All right, got a few responses coming in. Very nice. Ah, cool, cool. Okay, a little bit more global than expected. Okay, waiting on about half. Very cool. Okay, any more responses? Okay, nice. Hello. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So we'll start with the home page. Here you can see a screenshot, which is from the platform before, the main page. If you can just give a few words of your first impression of when we landed on that page, that would be great. So you can enter a word or you can do multiple responses, and it should show up as a word cloud. So we can see what if everyone agrees. Okay, friendly, clean, intuitive, user-friendly, attractive, very nice, colorful. Yes, we're lucky that the Climate Europe 2 colors are really cool and calm to look at. By and large, functional. Good, good. Nice. Nice house style. Okay, intuitive and nice. Those are the main things. Not so obvious. Okay. If you have any comments and you want to elaborate, that would be really useful for us to work on. Okay, any more comments here?
I see there's a hand up, Kelsey, by
Yes.
Sasa.
Okay. Uh, should we do like allow microphones
Yes, I
this
allowed
session?
now. Sasa, you
Okay.
should be able to talk.
Maybe they're muted.
Yeah, they're currently muted. Right. Yeah, maybe then just continue, Kelsey.
Okay, if you would like to comment, maybe you can do that in the Zoom Q&A section. Okay, so here we have a Likert scale. So still in response to the homepage. Um, from the homepage, the purpose of this platform is clear. Navigating through the sections feels logical, and the user interface is visually appealing. So you can choose from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So let's take a moment to do this. Okay, and remember, this is based on your first impression. And if you want to elaborate anything, you can leave comments as well. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can send a comment or open the Q&A. Okay, and once everyone's finished, or once I think everyone's finished, I can show the results. Okay, still some coming through. Okay, I'm going to show the responses here. Okay, so we have a little bit of a lower response with the purpose of the platform is clear, so maybe that's something we can work on. Navigating through the sections feels logical. Generally, people thought that was fine, and the user interface is visually appealing, so that seemed quite high. Okay, great. And so if you have any comments about how we can improve that, that would be great. Okay, so we have the platform branches off a few times, and then you can get lost. Oops, sorry. Where did that go? Uh, some of those disappeared, but maybe we can look at those comments later. Okay, but great. Please keep leaving comments like that. That would be fantastic. So let's go into the co-creation section. So if you remember, when we were uploading a document, we have this form here. This is just a little bit more of a minimized one. I would like to know how the process of uploading a document is. So are all of these fields that you see here relevant? Do we need some more information? Are more fields needed? And it would be quick and easy to complete this process. So if you strongly disagree, to strongly agree, please place how you would rate each of these statements. So thinking about if it's clear or not as well. Please leave comments if you have suggestions for how something can be worded differently. If you're not sure about how to enter information in a certain field, that would be information for the comments. Okay, still waiting. Okay, unit of analysis is unclear. Kilos. Okay, so maybe that's a definition that some people are not familiar with. In theory, when you go in here, you will be able to use one of these tooltips to get a little bit more information. So I encourage you to use the platform separately and check that out and see if the information in the hoverable tooltip could help you here. Okay, I've got 18 responses. Let's go ahead and look. Okay, so all of these fields are relevant. Okay, that's a pretty high score. So everyone thinks that this information is useful. Um, More fields are needed. Some people think that maybe there could be more. If you can include in the Q&A or the comments what fields you think we could add here, that would be very useful. And it would be quick and easy to complete this process. Generally, everyone thinks this. Okay, nice. So we aim to keep it simple so that we can encourage people to upload. So that's good to know. All right, next slide. Explore documents. So here we have a little bit of a sample of one of those published documents that we looked at before. So on the side, you can see some of the information that would have come from the upload document section. Do I want compliments or also feedback? Feedback, please. So it doesn't need to just be nice things. Please be honest. That would be great. Okay, so how is this section in terms of organization? How is the structure of the information in the sidebar? Visual appeal, how does it look in terms of the spacing, the colors, everything that has to do with how it looks, and then details provided. So could be sort of related to what we talked about before in the co-creation page. So if you can go ahead and respond here with the same type of Likert scale, that would be great. DOI not explained. Okay, that is something we can maybe add a tooltip to. But you send the feedback to sender like a tennis ball. Please use tooltips. I'm not sure if I understand that one. Meaning of labels might not be understandable. Okay, so
Can I just
labels.
answer on
Yes,
the DOI because I think it's a
please.
really important aspect of the reports that we might have on the platform. So currently we haven't implemented that, but we will do that. It means a digital object identifier, so it's a unique code identifying each document on the platform. This means that when we, for example, have Zenodo, which is a large repository where we have European deliverables, etc., um, published, that we will be able to refer in other documents to this specific entry on the platform with this unique link. So you can see it as like a unique URI or that's specific only to this entry. And it's very important also for let's say sustainability of the entry.
Great. And someone earlier asked about priority and what it means exactly. And yes, so that would be like how quickly the feedback is needed to publish, I believe, Tjerk.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's actually more relevant for the co-create part. Yeah.
But it could be useful to have a tooltip in the published documents section rather than only in the upload documents. So point taken that we could explain a little bit more in the public sphere. Okay, let's look at the results here. Okay, so generally good results, organization, visual appeal, and details provided. Great, let's move on from there. So the feedback section. So we did look a little bit at the end of one of the documents before, but here is a sample of how it might look when feedback is actually left under a document. This is like a mobile size version just to fit in this Mentimeter, but it more or less shows you the structure. So what are your thoughts in this section? It seems intuitive, needs more features, um, and it promotes collaboration. So how do you feel about that? And maybe you can tell us what features you think you might want to see in a comment section. And of course, please leave any comments just regarding the UI, the visual element of it, any confusion you might have too. Okay, let's take a minute here. Are comments public, traceable, and are they kept after publication? Um, Jack, maybe you'd want to answer this?
So the comments that are included, let's say in the revision phase, when the documents are yet to be published, they will not transfer to the library. But the document, of course, when documents are published, then let's say it's a clean sheet, so there's no comments remaining from the uploading phase.
Thanks. Okay, let's look at the responses here. Okay, so seems pretty intuitive. Generally, people believe this. Needs more features. Okay, that's kind of like near 50-50. So maybe we can incorporate some more collaborative tools here. For a moment, it's a bit confusing for PC viewers, but I guess I'll need a bit of time to get used to it. Not much clear nor intuitive. Ah, I missed that comment. It kind of disappeared. Did someone catch it? Duh. Well, these are things that we'll consider post webinar. But yeah, if you have any idea of what type of features might be needed, that would be great to post in the comments or the Q&A. I think the Q&A lasts a bit longer than the comments. And okay, promotes collaboration. Maybe this is something we can address a bit more to for the next iteration of the platform. Let's move on to the network section. Looking at the table with the information of the people who are part of the Climate Europe 2 community, what would be a reason you would use the platform to contact someone? Would it be getting some feedback on your work, asking about their deliverables, collaboration opportunities, clarifying project details, networking or introducing yourself, or for some other reason? So let's wait and see what people say about this. And you can choose multiple options as well. It doesn't need to just be one. Okay, let's take a minute to finish up. Okay, we'll have to move on here. Okay, collaboration opportunities is the top one. So maybe you like to work on a project with someone, you see that they're interested in the same field of climate services, and that's why you'd reach out maybe. Networking. Okay, and clarifying project details, not so much. Other, so with the other section, if you can write in the comments what you might. Okay, research should have overall plus specific topics. Okay, so that's something we can elaborate a little bit more on, and perhaps even inside the profile page of an individual as well. Okay, so collaboration opportunity seems like the most desired reason, or it's the best reason for reaching out to someone. So that's very good to know. All right, next slide. Okay, so that's actually it for the platform. We're going to move on to Arno, and he's going to talk a little bit about the webLyzard analytics dashboard, and then after we will do another Menti to get some feedback on that. So thank you very much, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me share my screen. Good. So this is the Climate Europe 2 dashboard. I don't actually have done any introductory slide because it was already mentioned in the first presentation. The goal of the analytics dashboard is to shed light, to increase transparency for the public debate, for stakeholder communication. As we all know, the communication about climate and other environmental issues is often really important for decision-making, individual, corporate level, for political processes. And we actually have several versions of this dashboard. You saw already in the earlier presentation, there is one that's integrated in the Climate Europe 2 platform, but we also have two that are independent, which is the light dashboard, which I show right now. And then I've also prepared a few slides for the professional version of the dashboard. So the light dashboard that you see here is built to be simpler and also works, thanks to responsive design, very well on mobile devices. And before I show you a few queries, let me just hide here the window. Let's take a look at the content sources that feed into this dashboard. This is, by the way, customizable. There can be new sources added, but also the individual existing sources can be expanded at any time. So the default setting when you go into this is news coverage, information from the websites of companies, nonprofit organizations, government websites, and research organizations, including universities and other web-based sites. So we operate our own web crawler. Every 15 minutes, the system is updated. So it's actually real-time information that you find there. It's available currently in 4 different languages. So the content in these 4 different languages feeds into the system. And we also have additional sources. We have scientific publications, we have press releases, and we have the information from fact-checking websites, which is, of course, also a very important aspect of climate communication. So I can, as a user, select now, I can analyze each of these sources individually. I can use it as just a scientific publication search engine. I can use it as just as a corporate search engine, or I can use it as a present today as a tool to compare also these voices and the stakeholder communication. So I can deactivate companies and activate scientific publications, for example. And then I can also change the sources here. I can now add the scientific publications. And the initial screen that you see here, that's similar for those of you who might remember TweetDeck. So each of these sources gets its own column. And the default is that each column gets a source, but you have full control about how this content is being segmented into various groups. So we have 519 results. The search term is climate services in the default. That can be changed as well, which I'm going to show later. And of course, this is always in the way. How can I move this? Currently, it's set for the 27th of May to the 27th of November, but you can always change the analytic interval here as well. And you can scroll down in each of these. But you can also define your own topics. If you say, I don't want to segment the coverage by source, I can do this, for example, by SDG. There's automatic classification of SDGs, or I could segment it by country. So show me, these are the top mentioned countries in the climate services coverage. And if I apply that, then I get the individual country information. So I have now, in blue, I have all the documents that mention Paris or France. You have already noticed probably these tabs in the lower parts. The tabs, they are determining how the results are being shown. So in the first one, it's just this list of documents. But you can, if you click on AI summary, then you get a summary of what has been written about climate services in conjunction with the selected topics. In this case, Sweden. I could, you can add your own search terms here as well. So it's not restricted to the presented bookmarks, or I can select different ones if I want, instead of drill down by country. Maybe I do want a drill down by topic. We have a few predefined here. I could adaptation, extreme weather, climate action mitigation, and biodiversity. Now I get a summary of the climate services coverage by the selected topics. We do have various types of visualizations to make the dialogue more transparent. So we have this color-coded text cloud. The colors now indicate for which of my subtopics here this keyword was extracted from. And if I click anywhere, I can do a drill down. So if I'm interested in climate communication or in adaptation strategies, it's only a click away, and then you get the drill down and see which were the sources that are mentioning that. There are different types of visualizations. We have a keyword graph, for example, that shows how this information is structured hierarchically. You can use the slider up here to make this even more detailed, to get really a feel about, what are these stakeholders associating with my various topics. And if something specific captures your attention, also here, just clicking on adaptation investments, for example, executes this drill down. The next one is the longitudinal displays. So we can also generate the timeline of the coverage. So now we have the timeline of the coverage between June and now. And we see the split of how climate services coverage was divided between the selected subtopics. What the system also does, it tries in the background to identify the peaks. And because just knowing that there is a peak on adaptation doesn't tell the full story. And we're trying to detect the peaks and then also label the peaks. This might take a moment because it has to do a lot of computation in the background. Maybe we can use the time. Has there already been a question we can answer in the meantime while we wait?
Yeah, there was one question from Camille if they're able to add sources to the list.
Yes, we can always add sources. At the moment, this has to be run through us, so we can For example, we have, government website, we have, it's a curated sample. So we have a number of government sources in each country, we have companies, etc. So we can also expand that, or we could create a completely new sample as well. But at the moment, this needs to be done by our team. So it's not, there's no option to do this on the fly by a user, which also has a practical reason, because if every user could just add sources, then it would be very hard to track trends, right? So because adding like 100 websites would, of course, increase the coverage maybe in a particular country. So if sources are always added in irregular intervals, you would not be able to compare the trends over time. So to allow that, we currently don't allow that, but we do have plans to have like a self-service management that users can just put in their own URLs, and this is then added to the mirroring, and only they would see their own sources. So that's in the works and will be available probably in the first or second quarter next year. In the meantime, you saw what happened. So each peak now that the system detected has been labeled as well to get a bit of a better idea of what was happening here since June. There is also a geographic map feature, which is the next one. So it maps globally the coverage on these issues. And so what you see here is not where the information originates. You can see that also in the professional version, but these are the locations that are mentioned in the coverage. And of course, not surprisingly, Belém got a lot of coverage lately. And also geographically, you just click on a location, you can zoom in, you can increase the number of results. And if you're interested in a particular location, this now allows you to do a geographic breakdown. So it shows you now not only where the location was being mentioned, but also which aspects here from these topics that we defined have been mentioned. And now I think it's a good opportunity maybe to show you additional ways to color code the results. So we have used sources and topics for now, but there are different ones here as well. I can color code it by sentiment, for example. Then I'm getting the positive and negative coverage. And something is stuck here. Let me reset. So if you click in the upper left corner on the logo, can you still hear me? My network connection might be down.
No, it's all good, Arno. Can you hear me, Arno?
Yes, I can
Yeah.
hear you, but for some reason.
Maybe in the meantime, I can ask you one question from the Q&A.
It seems to be back now.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have the positive and the negative coverage. So it's the same principle. Whatever you select on the right side, what type of metadata attribute that we extract. So each document, each sentence is processed by our system, and then we're adding, which persons, which locations did we find. We add the sentiment, etc., and then you can query that. Or we have recency, which is also an interesting attribute. It color codes the results by how current they were. So the warmer the color, the newer. So we have still our 6-month interval. So that means the blue ones would be coverage in May or June, and the red one would be current one. And again, we see Brazil and Belém, of course, being those that are mentioned quite heavily here. So that's the various visualizations. I've now, all the time, I've used the default query of climate services, but you can actually change this as well. So I can, let's say I'm interested in just COP30 in an event. And I'm going back to the sources. I can use the system in a different way. I could say, well, let me know what's happening on COP30. So it could be an event tracker on COP, and we can reduce the interval as well. So give me just, the last month of COP30 coverage. So on the upper right corner, you see how many documents there were, 4,200 documents. Yeah, and I don't know what's happening with my connection here, because normally this is all sub-second. Anyway, let me go back. Let me continue. Was there a question for the Lightbulb maybe before we go into the pro version of the dashboard?
Yeah, there was one question by Sally. If it's possible to review the sources, so for example, recommend an article or mark it down as not being that good, or are all the sources reviewed before they are being added?
We do review the sources as, a collaborative effort before we activate the system. We do have in the Pro dashboard also a way to annotate specific articles. So you can give it, for example, 1 to 5 stars. And you can also suggest deletion of an article with exactly the type of feedback, saying then, this is irrelevant, or this is maybe like double, something like that. So there are feedback mechanisms, but they're not in the light version, because we try to keep the light version as lean as possible and put that in the Pro version. Okay, so now it seems also my connection finally works again. So you can pretty much, put in the upper left corner anything, and it's really a generic search engine. It's not we have the default configuration of climate services, because in the context of this project, this is of most interest. But when you use the standalone version, you can always change the search query. Before I go to the Pro version, any questions that related specifically to the light version? If not, to speed up things.
There's one question here. Camille said, I missed how to change the labels from the geographic view. For instance, most recent, negative or positive, coverage, etc.
Yeah. So this is actually the same for all. It's not only the GeoMap, but it works also in the GeoMap. You have this drop down here. And the drop down tells the system how I want to color code the results. So we classify the results in subcategories, either by source or by recency or by sentiment. And that changes the color coding of the map, but it also changes the color coding in all the visualizations. So I can also create a tag cloud with positive versus negative sentiment. I can also change the tag cloud to recency. Then it shows me red are the most current keywords that were associated. Now we are with biodiversity. We can change that, of course, back to COP30. So now we would get the COP30 associations. And these are now from the last months, the COP30 associations color-coded by recency. Good. If there are no more questions, I prepared here slides just to speed it up and not have this presentation go on for too long. But and it's also, you can already see it's more complex. So it's much more powerful in terms of the querying capabilities. It also synchronizes all the views that you've seen individually. And now a change, a search, a click in one of the visualizations triggers an update of everything. And while the light dashboard is something we hope is intuitive enough that everyone can just go and use it, we do offer for the Pro version, this is for expert users who really want to do more complex analysis. We know it's necessary to organize a training workshop because it just has too many features for a quick introduction. But overall, you see the same. I have here now climate services since January this year, broken down by sources. And you have a few additional visualizations that don't make sense in the smaller display of the light. So for example, this word tree where you have a specific search term and you can see how is it being used in the public debate in context. We also tie here the information to a knowledge graph. So a knowledge graph is a structured representation of persons, organizations, locations. And that allows us now to extract opinion leaders, for example. So how many in the context of climate services, who was mentioned, how many times, and then which sources were mentioned. So it notes this color coding also from the count category. So we know where they're mostly mentioned in news or where they're mentioned in scientific publications, etc. In the geographic map, that's also a change what you've seen in the light version. We can now see not only the locations that are being discussed in the coverage, but we can also see where this information comes from. So you see both the origin of information and the location. So we have here again Belém in Brazil, and we see there's US coverage, but there's also coverage from Europe that talks about Belém, or coverage from Australia that talks about Belém. Different from the light version, if you click on something here, you're not getting a sidebar because there is none, but you're getting these tooltips. The tooltips give you a few examples. So I've now clicked on James Hansen. So I get a few examples of documents that mention James Hansen. We see when was he mentioned, mostly in February. And we get a little AI summary, what was being done here. And we see there was a study, like there was Copernicus data in the study by James Hansen. That talked about global warming to be accelerating. So this is the current Climate Europe dashboard. For us to further evolve the platform, we have two things actually we would like to ask you, which will be then also reflected hopefully in the Q&A. On the one hand, what you like and dislike about the system, but also what type of use cases you could envision with a system like that. And I want to show you a few other applications we had that was outside of Climate Europe 2, just maybe to as some first ideas. So we have an Austrian national project where we do this on a much more granular local scale. So you see here the map of Austria. And here we work together with the Austrian meteorological organizations, Geosphere Austria, and we get weather station data as well into the system. So the yellow is now thunderstorms and blue is precipitation. And this was the flooding we had in Europe in 2024. You see precipitation goes up to the roof. And we have the public debate that was discussing this extreme weather event. And we classify this discussion by SDG. That allows us, for example, did the various stakeholders, did the public actually connect this extreme weather event with climate action, with SDG 13, which is the brown color here. So that's just one example how you can use this type of online tracking to really tie together what's happening on the ground, what's happening in the real world with what it triggers in the virtual space. Another application we did based on the same technology was for climate.gov. We can also be used for a search engine to power, an organization's own website. Same technologies, but rather than using third-party websites, scientific publications, government publications, you can also use your own content and visualize it and, have something like a visual navigator like here to make it more intuitively accessible. This is already my last slide. Here you see a few of pointers to additional information. You can also see my email address. So if you would be interested to also try out the pro version of the dashboard, feel free just to email me. We're happy to provide logins. On the Climate Europe 2 platform, there is a public version embedded, but the pro version requires an individual login, and we are happy to give you one.
On that topic, Arno, there was a question.
Yes.
How do you register for the pro version and how much is the access fee?
Yes, so we are still luckily funded by Climate Europe 2. So it's, at the moment you can just, send me an email and request a login. We'll happy to send it out. We are going to host it until the end of the project. We will host it, for an additional year. But then, as usual in these EU projects, we of course do have an exploitation task where we are going to look for follow-up ways to monetize the platform and keep it running and further evolve it. But at this point, access is completely free.
Great. And another question was, can you switch between different languages in the Pro version? Because we saw like the German example with precipitation that you showed.
Yes, we can. Let me quickly go to the Pro version. You just add Pro to the URL, so it's really the same system, the same information. And so there are two things you can do. So let's say we are looking for biodiversity. Let's say I'm just looking for the last 2 months. Well, that's even still a lot. Let's say we look for the last 2 weeks. That's enough. Okay, so we have 1,600 articles. So there are several things you can do now to show the multilingual probabilities. I can go to the configuration, and I can add other languages. I can add, for example, German and sorry, this is the interface language. That's wrong menu. Here in the sources dialog, I can add German and Spanish. So what it does, you can see that here, it actually translates your search queries in the background. So you can actually analyze languages you don't even speak. So, you know, even if you don't know that biodiversity is biodiversidad in Spanish, it still gets you the information. And you can also see this immediately in the geographic map. Once you add Spanish language, of course, you're getting much more coverage in Spain because you get all the local coverage. So, you know, you get information on biodiversity in Zaragoza, which English language media would probably not have covered, but because we have added, now added Spanish as a content language, we have this article appearing. So that's the content language. I can also influence the interface language. So I can pick, I want to display the results in Spanish. So it doesn't change now my results. I have these 3,700 documents from Spanish, English, and German sources. But now I get the results in Spanish. So you have complete control selecting the different content buckets, if you like, of the different languages. And then you can just display the results in the language of your choice. Were there any other questions while I still share my screen?
For now, I don't see any.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Arno. I think then now the floor is to Kelsey for
Thank you.
some more feedback gathering.
Yes, so now we will focus on feedback on the analytics dashboard. Let me share my screen again. So it looks like everyone is still participating in this Mentimeter, and that's great. So you can continue on your phone. Let's see. So similar to before, we're doing a word cloud. What is your first impression of the dashboard? So thinking about the demonstration that Arno gave us. So you can write as many as you'd like. Oh, it looks really good. Off to a nice start. Okay, a bit confused. Okay, maybe this is something that we can look into, how to make things a bit clearer. A lot of information, that could be good or bad. Looks really good, incredibly useful, complex, full of information, useful, rather complete. Okay. Confusing, overwhelming, very flexible for users. Okay, so this is a bit of a mix, which could be something we could look into, how to account for different use cases, perhaps, different users. Okay, any more comments here? And you can elaborate more, as always, in the Q&A section. Okay, understandable. Okay, nice. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, which sections are the most interesting to you? So in this image here, you can see I've taken a screenshot from each of the different sections. I think the only one that doesn't have an image is the AI summary part. But you can use the numbers to sort of reference which part of the dashboard you want to talk about. So it's multiple choice. You can choose as many as you want. I'll give you a minute to do this. Okay. So we've got documents, story graph, cluster map. Okay, how to switch across languages would help. The analytics dashboard UI does not do justice to the underlying content and features. Okay.
Maybe just a comment because it might be confusing. 3 I did not show. 3 is an additional third visualization in addition to the table and the keyword graph, which I, for the sake of time, didn't show.
And that one's the
But
cluster map, yes?
3 is clustering the documents together, like into coherent stories. So that means, similar documents go into one of these clusters that you see.
Thanks. Okay, we've got 10 responses. Maybe we can look at the responses so far as they come in. Okay, the map seems like the most useful, knowing where each article came from, and then the documents listing, the default page that came up, and sources. Okay. 6 is sources. Okay. Nice. And looks like the tag cloud is probably the least interesting to people, and the story graph, which is number 2. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next section here. And remember, you can always leave comments in the Q&A. So here we have a short answer section. So you can type out maybe what types of use cases or applications you could see being applicable using this dashboard. So let's take a couple minutes here to think of some ways that you might use this. Okay, so a quick overview of relevant information when researching a certain subject. Okay, nice. Could be very useful for that before starting. Getting an idea about how different profiles talk about a particular topic. Tracking trending topics. Compare reactions to a meteorological or other event. Good. Geographical overview of the interest on certain topic. Cool. Anything else? I'll give a bit more time. Maybe people are writing something a little bit more elaborate. Interlinks amongst topics. Topic and information tracking. Relevant stakeholders. Okay, anything else? Give 30 seconds. Okay, I think we'll wrap this slide up and move on to this. What additional sources would be helpful to have? This is something Arno wanted to know about. So I think, yeah, the sources that are currently available are news, nonprofit, research, companies, and government. Someone said one before, I think, or had a question about sources. So maybe that is something you can put here as well. Here we have, can you filter for visuals, infographics? Okay, this is something that could be useful to do.
Maybe while the answers coming in, I can answer that. So mostly we focus on textual information, as you have seen. The dashboard does have the capability to do visual search. So we use, it's an AI technology embeddings, multimodal embeddings. So you can pull images that relate. It's not a focus in Climate Europe 2 though, because usually image data is of course also quite storage intensive. So we would need to capture these images and store them. And it was not a requirement, but the system would be capable of doing so to expand the search to visual attributes, but it's currently not implemented, activated for this dashboard.
Okay. Another comment on filtering as well. Looks nice, but I do not know how to use it. It would be helpful to have the list of sources and to be able to propose sources. Okay. So earlier I was referring to adding
By the way,
sources.
it's also possible to restrict sources because I just saw the comment here, they're broad. So I didn't have the time to show that, but you can define, as a registered user, you can define your own bookmarks so that you define searches that can include keywords, that include sources, so you can create your own bundles. So if you have, let's say, 20 scientific publications that are particularly important to you, you can bundle them together and say, this is now like a bookmark for me, and I track only the publications from these 20 scientific publications or from these 5 government sources. So it goes in both ways. We can make the base content, the content footprint larger, but at the same time, it is possible for users to define subsets of this information space if they want to do some more specific tracking.
Cool. Thank you, Arno. Okay, any last comments here before we move on? Seems like that's it. There was one more slide. Ugh. Sorry, let me see if I can go back to. No, I think that was it. Okay, well, if you have any more comments about the visuals, about things that you might want to change, you can put that in the Q&A. Also, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. If you haven't made an account with Climate Europe 2 platform, please do. That way you can play around a little bit. And the more people participate, the more this platform can be a helpful tool to strengthen the climate service community. And perhaps once we get more new signups, people can get a chance to explore, and we can do another more in-depth session after people are a bit more familiar with it. We're also going to do a survey, a post-seminar survey that's going to get a little bit more information that could be really useful for us. There are questions that I've not included, so please stick around for that, and it would help us with improving the platform further. And I'm going to stop sharing, but thank you. And I'm going to hand off to Inez, I think, who's going to provide the survey.
Hi, Kelsey. No, the survey will appear to your screens once you log off of the webinar. So thank you, all of you, for joining, and we hope to see you in the next webinar. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks
Bye.
Thank you very
all.
much. Have a
Thanks
good
for
day.
being there. Bye bye.